Hello Roger, nice to meet you. We
Well,
just
hello.
arrived here in Clarksdale. We know each other quite a long time through the internet.
Sure.
But I think it's interesting to know a little bit more about what's happening here in this street, Delta Avenue,
Right.
this very place at Cathead. So, were you born over here in the Delta?
I was born in the store. No, I was born in Dayton, Ohio. Actually, I was born in Cincinnati, Ohio. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio. And I had a 13-year marketing and advertising career that took me to St. Louis, Missouri. When I moved to St. Louis in '95, I started visiting here, fell in love with the people and the place and the music and the culture, and decided to come down here and try to do something about it. Basically, the mission of everything I do, from the store to the films to the book to the whatever, putting on festivals, is all to organize and promote from within, to sort of organize just enough the real blues and the real juke joint culture that's still here, that you can promote it, get folks to visit here, and or bring the musicians and exponents of the culture to other places.
I think that's pretty important because the people over here are poor, we know that.
Yes.
Especially the African American people over here are
yeah.
amazingly poor, and they are glad with what you are doing here.
I think so. You know, I've been here 9 years, and you know, when you first come in as an outsider, you don't know what anybody thinks. But my whole thing from the beginning has been, again, to organize and promote, to try to help someone before you help yourself, and just sort of hope that over time that sort of builds up a lot of you know, credential and friendships and everything that goes along with it, so you can continue your mission.
And next to the store you have here with selling great stuff made by like Super Chicken's guitar and pictures made at juke joints and so. You're doing a lot more like working together with Jeff Conkle.
Yeah, Jeff Conkle, it's funny, we both lived in St. Louis at the same time. He's from there.
That's where
I was
you
there
knew
like
him
7
from.
years. No, I met him right here in the store. He came through as a blues fan, and I guess that's about 5 years ago. And basically, he started recording Jimmy Duck Holmes. He came to see a Big George Brock show that I put on at Paul Monkey's Lounge, a little juke joint about half an hour from here. And basically, after the show, he bought a CD, the Big George CD I had out, you know, from me at the door. And riding home, you know, after a few beers, you know, at a juke joint, he's listening to that thinking, well, hell, I could do that. So he started the record label 2 months later. And basically came down, exactly, Broken Hungry Records, and it's appropriately named. That's probably the business plan and the mission statement, as well as the slogan, you know, to his wife's dismay. But Broken Hungry is not a big moneymaker, but it's been an incredible capture of culture within 5 years. Just bam, like suddenly we have all this stuff we would not have had. And a guy like Jimmy Duck Holmes was completely off the radar. It's easy to think he was on the radar then, but he wasn't. I'd only seen him play once at that point, at like a public event. And frankly, you know, he just wasn't that into it because he didn't realize there was all this potential to be playing it on a regular basis. In the last 5 years, he's really got into it. And recently I did a book signing down in Jackson, Mississippi that he played at. He basically talked to that. He's like, you know, here it is. Basically, this guy, Jeff Conkle, plucked him out of obscurity, showed him that there's actually a market for it and people interested in it. So he's been writing new songs in the Bentonia tradition as opposed to just doing
boost
covers.
for him.
Yeah, exactly.
To get busy again with making music.
And it's kind of like what my mission was with Big George Brock, the same kind of thing. I mean, here's a guy who's been laboring for, and he's 79 years old, for his whole life, been laboring in obscurity, these little like Chitlin Circuit type places, juke joints, little blues clubs that he owned, and had a great local following, like really wonderful local following, but nationally and internationally just wasn't known. Yet here's a guy that's, you know, he's a contemporary of some of the greats and can put on a show that reminds you of Howlin' Wolf in the heyday, you know, or Muddy Waters in the heyday. Jimmy Duck Holmes can remind you of, you know, the early Delta country bluesmen in their heyday, and it's just wonderful because they're not, you know, acting or trying to replicate, they're just being themselves. They came up in it the same way, so basically it's just a matter of opening the door and letting them kind of shine.
Yeah, that's nice. So when you go back to '95, when you arrived in Missouri or in St. Louis, you were introduced to the blues at that moment, only at that moment.
Oh, no, I was a long-time blues fan. I got into music.
You were a blues fan.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly when I got into music, and I can tell you
which
the
artist
path.
started you?
Well, this is ridiculous, but it's Elvis Presley. It was August 17th, 1977. It was the day after he died. I was 10 years old in Dayton, Ohio, and I came out that morning in the newspaper. At that time, there was a morning and an afternoon paper, which is crazy. Now there's barely newspapers at all with the internet. But it was sitting on the floor and it said, "The King is dead at 42." And I was just intrigued. And then suddenly his music was everywhere. I don't know how it was overseas, but you couldn't get away from it. It was everywhere. And what I didn't know at the time is the stuff I liked were his blues cuts. You know, things that were inspired by blues and some of the gospel and country-esque kind of things, but not the Vegas, Hollywood stuff, you know, but I didn't know that as a kid. So that got me on my path into music and starting to explore things and trying to figure out, well, what's this about different genres and cultures, you know, that's not just pop music. So slowly, as I got into like the 80s, I started to realize there was a thing called blues. And guys like Eric Clapton, fortunately, who I like Eric Clapton, you know, but he in interviews, what I really loved, he'd always name names. So I'd be like, okay, well, Robert Johnson, well, I gotta go find this. So I'd go down to the, you know, the local mall, at that time in Trotwood, Ohio, and be looking for a Robert Johnson. I found it in the jazz section because it came out under a Columbia's jazz series, you know. And I remember going home and it was like the Holy Grail on his cassette, which is horrible, but you know, things like that. Or, you know, he mentioned Buddy Guy. Well, Buddy Guy came through Dayton, so I'm like, well, I gotta go see Buddy Guy. And fortunately, it was when he was really great, you know, still. So, you know, it was that foot in the door through rock and roll, like a lot of folks. So, you know, I started in '77 in its own way. By '95, I was very much into it. But I honestly thought, when I came down here, I was doing the Dead Man Blues Tour. I thought I was going to see headstones. I thought I'd walk where they walked and see museums, maybe catch a little bit of music, if anything. And this is ridiculous now, but at the time it seemed reasonable. I thought I might actually see blues on Beale Street. But that was the next year when I really took the big trip. Found Memphis at that time very disappointing blues-wise. There were bluesmen living there, they just don't have a place to play. But coming down into the Delta, that's when I really had my first experiences, including up in the hill country, Junior Kimbrough's juke joint. And that was the night that just, I mean, people talk about things changing their lives. That changed my life. That was a turning point, to quote Tyrone Davis. Yeah, because I mean, you had old guys playing real blues in their own really distinct ways. R.L. Burnside played that night, Junior Kimbrough played, and all their kids were there. I mean, all the Burnsides you hear about, the Kimbroughs you hear, they were all there that night playing.
And they're still playing.
So, you know, it showed me that the culture was still alive. You had moonshine getting passed around, you know, the whole 9 yards was there. As well as the old and the young in a juke joint setting, and every square inch of the walls were painted with folk art. So the whole thing just, I could not get it out of my mind. I went back to St. Louis, and I was doing like heavy duty corporate retail and marketing work where, I mean, I worked hours and hours, and still couldn't get out of my head, even though you're so preoccupied with trying to make your life. I just constantly thought about it. And so basically when I started these pilgrimage, every long weekend, every vacation, you know, I become obsessive about things. And basically what I usually tell people who come in here, you know, tourists are like, oh, well, you must really love the blues to have moved here. Well, I do, but I came here for the music, and I moved here for the people. Does that make sense? To find out that the culture was still living and breathing, and you could sit down next to the culture and talk to it. I mean, that's just amazing. And to find out that juke joints like Red's Lounge, where you guys were last night, you know, to find out that places like that are still running, and you can go see, like this evening, Robert Wolfman Belfour is going to be there.
We'll be there.
Can't get a gig in Memphis, but he plays at Red's, you know, at least 3 weekends a month. It's just awesome. It is like stepping back in time. And, you know, with Mr. Belfour, it's not a money thing. There's not a whole lot of money. He drives all the way down, all that gas and everything from Memphis, has to drive home at 3 a.m. And you're like, well, why would he do it? So I asked him one time, he said, well, you know, he laughs. He goes, it reminds me of playing the open houses, you know, the house parties when I was growing up. So he'll go take the big gigs overseas, the festival things for money, and I'm sure he enjoys it. It's still a great show. But this is purely for what it makes him feel. And he'll do like 2.5-hour sets. And the guy's 70 years old. He'll play 2.5 hours till literally he has to go to the bathroom and take a break. You know? It's just crazy. You know?
Did you ever walk on stage and play an instrument? Or
no. I play a little bit at home, but even my dog doesn't like it. So, you know. It's
okay, Roger. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, appreciate it.
We'll see each other, and guys, buy that album.
There you go. And cathead.biz is the website. The book is Hidden History of Mississippi Blues with the History Press.
Yes, true. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.